Hi. I'm Dr. Neil Beck. I was a doctor in Perth, Western Australia for 53 years. First of all in hospitals, then as a family doctor for many years in the suburbs. Helped 800 babies into the world. Did lots of tonsillectomies and appendicectomies and broken bones, which family doctors used to do in those days, now mostly done by specialists, and had 500,000 consultations, home and hospital visits. In the late 1990s, we had a terrible epidemic of heroin addiction in Perth, and so I started to work 10 hours a week in an addiction clinic. And I wanted to know what caused addiction, and I went to every addiction clinic in Perth and Sydney and couldn't find a single addiction worker who knew what caused addiction or thought they should know what caused addiction. But I thought that we should know what caused addiction, because in health, as I think in most things, if you know the cause, it's much easier to fix it. And it's much less likely to relapse or come back if the cause is fixed. Treating addiction without finding and fixing the underlying causes is like selling cars with no wheels. Cars with no wheels don't go very far, and ex-addicts who still got the original cause don't go very far either. What I found, sadly, was that there were many people who had mental health problems, and they did not get the care that they needed in time, and eventually, in desperation, they took street drugs to get relief and became addicts, because everything that was for sale on the streets was illegal and it was criminals selling, and they just wanted troubled people to become addicts so they could get all their money. So why were people not able to get the mental health care that they needed? What I found was that the tools that were used in mental health care and addiction were weak. There were two tools. One was medicines, and so many medicines were addictive. The people who took medicines wanted to get better quickly and stop taking medicine, but the people who make medicines wanted them to take as many medicines as possible for as long as possible, because they just wanted to sell as much medicine as possible. So that tool, the tool of medicines, was weak because so many of the medicines were addictive. All the anxiety, worry medicines were addictive, all the sleeping medicines were addictive, and the three main ADD, ADHD medicines were addictive. That's Ritalin, dexamphetamine and Adderall, all addictive, creating terrible problems. The other tool used in mental health and addiction is talk therapy, counseling, psychotherapy, CBT, whatever you like to call it, but basically talking to the person concerned. And that had two weaknesses. First of all, it was very slow. It took a long time to find out what all the person's problems were, because they never only had one problem. And to work out what caused the problem, how to fix the problem, took a long time. And the other weakness of talk therapy was it's costly, because to be a therapist you have to have at least a 4-year psychology degree from a university, or a 5-year master's degree, or a 6 or 7 year PhD degree, and to be a psychiatrist takes 10 or 12 years. Um, so those people had to be paid well. They deserved to be paid well, and if we didn't pay them well, we wouldn't have enough. Well, we didn't have enough of them, but we'd have even less of them. So the tools were weak. And the second thing I found was that there were many blind spots in mental health and addiction care. When I was trying to work out what caused addictions, one day in the clinic where I was working 10 hours a week, I saw 15 heroin addicts, and I realized that 5 of them had undiagnosed, untreated attention deficit ADD, ADH disorder. And it was obvious that the ADD had caused the addiction, not the addiction caused the ADD, because they'd had ADD since childhood, and they'd had a difficult life. ADD is difficult, and little kids with ADD tend to get into more trouble than healthy, normal children. And then they go to school and they're a problem in the classroom. They're restless, they're impulsive, they're hyperactive, they disturb the class, they get a lot of flack from the teachers, and they often leave school early with a poor education and then have poor employment prospects and so on. So once I realized that a third of the heroin addicts had ADD, ADHD, I looked for other mental illnesses, and I found that there were about 10 or 11 common ones. The commonest was mental health, worry or anxiety type problems, social anxiety, social phobia, panic attacks, obsessive compulsive disorder, all sorts of phobias. The second commonest was major depression. So many addicts had been seriously depressed when they turned to street drugs. Part of the problem was that antidepressants take 2 to 4 weeks to start working, and in that time, in desperation, very depressed people often turn to street drugs. The third one was ADD, ADHD. The fourth was bipolar disorder, high-low disorder, sometimes high and manic and racy and reckless, and sometimes low and slow and very depressed. Then there was post-traumatic stress disorder. Then there was severe low self-esteem, low self-confidence, or crashed self-esteem, crashed self-confidence. For various reasons, people had no confidence in themselves and had a very low opinion of themselves, and that was inclined to drive them to street drugs to help them feel better. And of course, street drugs always make you feel better at first, but they end up making you feel terrible. Then there was IAD, irritability anger disorder. That was common. A lot of domestic violence and a lot of violence in work situations and social situations. And then there was what I called PTF, post-traumatic evil focus, where people had something so bad happen to them that they couldn't face it, and they escaped their terrible personal problem by focusing on other people's problems in other places, in the CIA, in Guantanamo Bay, with conspiracy theories. And then there was schizophrenia, and then there was autism. 95% of the addicts that I saw had mental illnesses. Mental distress was what had originally driven them to take street drugs for relief. And how do street drugs work? Well, what happens is a person who's got a problem has a crisis, and in a crisis they do stuff that they wouldn't normally do. They know that the street drugs are dangerous. Their friends or members of their family have had terrible problems, but they're just very desperate in a crisis. And addictive drugs, first of all, give you great relief in small, affordable amounts to begin with. Great relief. Secondly, they never cure anything, so the problem is still there, and when the relief of the street drug wears off, the problem comes back. And this time, to get relief, they have to take a bit more, because addictive substances cause tolerance or resistance in the person's chemistry. So when they need to take their street drug again for their suffering, they have to take enough for the suffering and enough to overcome the resistance or tolerance that's developed. So they have to take more, and when they take more, the resistance or the tolerance gets greater, and then the next time they have to take even more and get even more tolerance or resistance until they end up they're taking great amounts of the addictive substance. It's not really enough to overcome their resistance or tolerance and to overcome their suffering, but they're stuck because all that foreign chemical has screwed their natural chemistry so much that if they stop taking the addictive substance, their screwed up chemistry craves for more. Blind spots, 10 blind spots. The first one was that we often didn't look for causes. You have to look for causes to have successful treatment. All 95% of addicts, in my experience, needed dual diagnosis treatment. That is, they needed to have their mental health disorders diagnosed and treated at the same time as they had their addiction treated. And when you did that, a lot of them got better. Not all of them, but a lot of them got better and didn't relapse. But if you didn't do that, they just had to go on and on and on taking addictive medicines like terrible methadone, then Subutex, and then Suboxone, all addictive. So when they woke up in the morning, they didn't think about going to work. They thought about going to the pharmacy to get their methadone because it's so addictive. And that was a barrier to employment. So the first blind spot is we don't look for causes. The second blind spot I saw was that people tend to the clinics tend to look at people as if they're solo, as if they're individuals, and they're not individuals. Mental health problems are almost always family problems. And it was very hard to get an addict off their addiction and to prevent them relapsing if nothing was done about the family, and sometimes nothing could be done about the family, but you had to get the addict to understand that it was a family problem and how he could cope with his family or her family. The third great blind spot in addiction was that it's not taught in schools. My 53 years as a doctor convinced me that the most important thing in life is mental health. And the second most important thing in having a good life is good relationships. And those things are not taught in school. That's a terrible blind area. They're the two most important things in your life, and they should be taught in school. Another blind area is that mental health problems and addictions are not treated as emergencies. There are emergencies because problems cause more problems that cause more problems. And the person who starts off excuse me, starts off with a problem like ADD, ADHD, or an anxiety problem, then develops a depression problem, and then a sleep problem, and then a street drug problem, and then a money problem, and then often a housing problem, and a food, a nutrition problem. So the best way to treat a mental health problem is as early as possible. The best way to treat an addiction problem is as early as possible, but so often those problems were not treated for years and years and years until they were so bad that people crashed, and then they were extremely hard to help to get better. Another blind area is transgenerational traumas. What didn't seem to be noticed, and nothing seemed to be done about it, was the fact that the person with the problem today usually got their problem from their mum or their dad, who got it from their mum or their dad, who got it from their mum or their dad. The problems were not isolated. The people were not isolated. They were part of a family. They were part of two streams of mums and dads, their dad's stream and their mum's stream. And the problems were part of a stream of problems. A problem in one generation led to problems in the next generation, and that wasn't recognised. And another blind area was that there was great emphasis on making, well, not at first, but later, on making a diagnosis, on telling people what's wrong with them, and that was often important, but what they most needed to do was to be told what they needed, to be shown what they needed, to be helped with what they needed. They needed to be able to focus and concentrate better. They needed to be less impulsive. They needed to do things that made them happy, because unhappiness goes with unhealthiness. So teaching people what they needed was more important than telling them what was wrong with them. And people weren't being taught to self-help. They were being told what to do, but they weren't being trained to help themselves. And it was so important that people took responsibility and were shown how to manage their problems and to help themselves. Another blind area was that so often we looked for who to blame. Oh, we get a problem here. Who's to blame? But the blame is almost never due to one person or one thing. The problem and the family are part of a chain, and what you have to do is you have to understand the chain of people and the chain of problems. And if people think, and to do that, you have to find the facts, what actually happened and why it happened. But if people think you're going to blame them, they don't tell you the truth. And another blind area which I found quite surprising had never heard of, but was quite real, was that troubled people quite often stayed troubled because that's their family, and they had a sort of a loyalty to their family, to be like their family. And if their dad had an alcohol problem, they might say, well, that's bad, but they didn't want to be healthier and happier than their alcoholic dad. They didn't want to be healthier and happier than their depressed mum. They didn't want to be wealthier or to have more than their poor grandparents. So this sort of misguided loyalty to the family traditions was a blind area. What we needed to do was to teach people how to get better and to help them to help their families to get better, so everybody got better. So what was the solution to this problem? That there was never going to be enough help available quickly for mental health problems, which was why people were becoming addicts. And the reasons were that the mental health and addiction tools, the two tools, had great weaknesses, and there were many blind areas. Well, what I realized was that we needed better tools. Today, everything is done with tools. You go in the kitchen, there's tools everywhere. When I was a boy a long time ago, there was only two tools: a big tin dish that you washed your cups and saucers and knives and forks in, and a wood stove you had to light every morning and put wood on and keep putting the wood on to keep the fire burning to cook your food and to boil the billy. Now, and there was no gas, no electricity, no refrigerator, no washing machine, and no electric grinders and now there's tools, lots of tools, and in the garden there's lots of tools, and in the garage there's lots of tools, and in every factory and everywhere there's tools now. If there isn't a good tool for something, someone makes a good tool for it. Incredible the tools in some places, like where they make electric cars. We needed tools for mental health, and the tools should be very convenient, very effective, and self-help tools. So I started to make tools about 22 years ago, and I'm now up to tool number 10. Very quickly, the tools were videos, websites, an app, the Mental Fix It app, live streaming. I do this live streaming 4 days a week at 7 p.m. on Perth time on Wednesday, Friday and Saturday, and 9 a.m. Sunday morning for about an hour. The fifth tool was powder medicine. Why powder medicine? Because swallowed tablets and capsules take half an hour to an hour to go right down your gut and start to be absorbed and start to help, and 1 to 2 hours before they're helping a lot. But powder medicine dropped on your tongue and sucked and absorbed through your tongue starts to work in 5 minutes, and soon taste conditioning develops and that starts to work in seconds. So half an hour to an hour to start to work and 1 to 2 hours to work strongly is just too slow for a lot of mental health situations and for addiction craving. But powder medicine dropped on the tongue, starting to work in 5 minutes and then soon starting to work in seconds, is much better. And my sixth tool was pocket powder medicine dispensers. So you've got your powder medicine in your pocket and you can whiz it out and just drop the powder on your tongue anywhere, anytime, even driving a car. And so as soon as the problem starts, you drop the powder medicine on your tongue and it starts to work. The seventh tool was a heartbeat meditation aid. Meditation is so valuable for people with mental health and addiction problems, even for people who don't have mental health problems but who work hard and get a little bit stressed. Meditation helps you to relax and to be calm, and it makes your brain work better. But it's a habit you have to learn, and the people who most need to meditate had difficulty learning that, developing that habit. And heartbeat meditation aid, which is a cut-down stethoscope that enables you to listen to your heart, which stops you thinking about your problems, is a powerful way to develop the meditation habit. The eighth tool is another powder medicine dispenser, but this one gives a much bigger amount of powder, and the powder is not medicine, the powder is fruit powder. Fruit powder is becoming increasingly popular worldwide, and you can buy it everywhere on all sorts of fruit powders, and people love it to make thick shakes and desserts out of and so on. But I thought that if people could have their favourite fruit powder in a pocket dispenser in the pocket, when they were tempted to have something they shouldn't, like if they were diabetic or pre-diabetic or obese, to have sugary, fatty things, they could instead whiz out and have a taste of lovely powder instead. That tool's not yet available. We're going through the process of developing it in Ningbo and China. The ninth tool is what I call phone treasure, which is having lovely stuff on your phone that you can whiz out, and anytime you need a little cheer up or a little break or a reminder of happy times, you can look at something on your phone, photos, videos, or listen to music or voices or whatever. But we haven't developed that because the 10th tool then seemed so important to me that I stopped working on the 9th tool. The 10th tool is Mental Fix-It Scroll Plus. Mental Fix-It Scroll Plus. Because what I found is that today people want to swipe through things, scroll through things quickly. They don't want to read the 1,200-page books that, like I used to read when I was a medical student. Those books have great amounts of detail about everything, and they take a long time to read. And today, TikTok has taken over, and people want TikTok under-a-minute videos, and they want to scroll or to swipe through lots of stuff. TikTok has over 1 billion viewers every month, and very many of them just swipe, just scroll. So what I realized was that people had to have self-help tools that were very convenient, very effective, very fast, and very low cost. And so what I did was find 90 mental health and addiction problems and solutions and turn them into a scroll. Now the advantage of scrolling is you can cover everything. You can go so fast and you can cover everything and miss nothing. But the disadvantage is there's no detail. you can go very fast because there's no detail. And so my Scroll Plus, which will be available I think in about a month, has 90 mental health and addiction problems, and you can scroll, they're in 10 groups, and you can scroll through a group in a minute, or 2 groups in 2 minutes, or 3 groups in 3 minutes, or the whole 10 groups in 10 minutes, and see everything and find which of your things. Most people, I mean, you don't have everything wrong with you. Some people have got those problems, some people have got those problems. But most people, there were somewhere between 5 and 20 things of great interest to them, and the Scroll Plus allows them to scroll through everything very quickly, and when they find something of interest to them, they can just tap on it and instantly see a micro video on it, a 6 to 15 second video on it, and that immediately gives them some of the information, detail they need. And if that helps them, then the micro video has a link to a mini video, and the mini video is a minute, and it's amazing how much information you can pack in a minute. So a person who is scrolling through and discovers something that's important to him can then get some information and confirm that this is something that's important to them, and then watch a longer video and get even more help. Now I'm going to just find my Scroll Plus things and give you some examples. The first, so there are 10 groups. The first group is first aid for mental distress. So that's for someone who's in great distress now and needs first aid treatment. They can do that in 10 minutes. Download the Mental Fix It app in a few seconds, which is free. Answer its questions in 3 or 4 minutes, which then tells it which 6 of our 83 under-a-minute videos will help the most, and they can watch those 6 videos in 6 minutes. So in 10 minutes they've gone from great distress and confusion to having quite a lot of understanding and insight and help in knowing what to do. The second group is feelings are usually what affect us most. The things that affect us most in our life are usually feelings. The third group, there's 14 items in that. The third group is to be happy and healthy, grow your mental health. Mental health is the most important thing in having a good life. If you have got good mental health, you can get almost anything else you need. Let me just enlarge that a bit. What most makes our life safe and good is being mentally healthy. Mental health is good feelings, good thinking, and good habits. And mental health helps us to get the other great things we need most: good relationships, high feel-good endorphins chemistry, a strong immune system, physical health, and no addictions. So let's look at some examples. Group 2, feelings are very powerful factors in our life. Item 1, to get a happy, healthy life, develop more and more good feelings and get your bad feelings fixed. So if you think, yeah, I got lots of bad feelings, I need to get them fixed, you just tap there and you see a 15-second video. If the 15-second video helps you, then you tap the 1-minute video. The second item under feelings is most bad feelings are caused by having 2, 3 or more of the 11 common mental health disorders. The common mental health disorders are worry, anxiety, sleep disorders, major depression, bipolar disorder, ADD, ADHD, irritability, anger, violence disorder, PTSD, PTF, crash self-esteem, schizophrenia and autism. So the Bible of mental health is got 500 items in it, but I can tell you that if you come to grips with the ones that you've got, if you're very troubled, you've probably got 2 or 3 or 4 of them, but there's only about 11 common ones. The third item under feelings is we produce 25 feel-good happy chemicals in our brain, glands and gut. So how do we feel happy? We feel happy because we've got about 25 chemicals in us, in our brain, in our glands and in our gut. Those feel-good chemicals are dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, noradrenaline and over 20 endorphins. Endorphins are endogenous morphines. Yes, we produce morphine type chemicals that relieve pain and relieve distress, and they also boost the immune system, which fights infections, allergies, inflammation, autoimmune diseases and cancers. And getting sick makes you feel bad and being healthy makes you feel good. Yeah, so the fourth item is our feel-good chemicals also boost our disease-fighting immune system, which keeps us healthy. The fifth item, to be happy, healthy and safe, keep your feel-good chemistry strong. The sixth item under feelings is build a list of safe, feel-good things you love and download our phone treasure tool. It's very important that the things that give you pleasure and make you feel good are not addictive, and they're not hopelessly expensive, and they're not very inconvenient. You want to build up a list of things that you love. For instance, for me, the thing I love most is The Voice Kids. Watching The Voice Kids, and also Britain's Got Talent, and America's Got Talent, and the singers from Colombia, and the singers from Romania. Just fantastic. That's my number one thing. Of course, photos of grandchildren, and certain healthy foods and drinks. And I've got a little exercise machine on my front porch, which I enjoy, just getting the blood flowing in 5 or 10 minutes. So build a list of happy, healthy, safe, good field chemistry boosting things. Develop happy morning habits to make sure every day is good. Sometimes we wake up a bit low and slow, and that can spoil a whole day, but if we develop a few habits first thing in the morning, we can get ourselves going. We can lift our mood and lift our energy and our interests and make the whole day better. The next group of items is grow your mental health. There are 10 factors. To be happier and healthier, what usually helps most is to grow our mental health. Tap and see the 6-second video on that. And if you like the 6-second video, then tap the 1-minute video. The next group of items is mental health downer disorders, the 10 factors, depression, and what's the items under that? Depression is not truly fixed until its causes are found and fixed. People can take antidepressants for 10, 20, 30 years without anybody ever looking for or finding the cause. You're not always able to find everything about the cause, because depression and bipolar disorder are usually triggered by a number of factors, but the more you understand what caused it, the less depressed you'll be. Am I low and slow because my thyroid gland is weak? Am I low and slow because I had a virus infection or have chronic fatigue syndrome? The next group is mental health upper disorders. There are 9 factors. For health and happiness, good sleep is a necessity, not a luxury. Sleep is so important. What the 10-second video on that is: sleep deficiency causes irritability, anger, and irritability, anxiety, and poor concentration, memory, and decision making, and also immune system weakness, obesity, and high blood pressure. So then you need to watch the 1-minute video on sleeping well. Could my anxiety be due to thyroid gland overactivity? Fix irritability, anger, violence disorder. The 15-second video: fix irritability, anger, violence disorder by repeating fast mental scroll plus and mental fix-it app checks, watching the 6 to 60-second videos they recommend, and with Anger Fix powder medicine in pocket dispensers. Anger Fix powder medicines, there's 4 different medicine powders mixed together. You can drop on your tongue and suck it. If you've got it in your pocket in a dispenser, you whiz it out, drop it in. As soon as you start to feel a bit aggro, or as soon as you are approaching a situation or a person where you tend to get angry, where you can just nip it in the bud. Your blood pressure and mental health are connected and affect one another. The 10-second video: mental distress causes high blood pressure directly or indirectly by causing obesity, alcohol excesses, and tobacco smoking. Then heart attacks, strokes, and dementia affect your mental health. The 6th group is good relationships are almost as important as mental health. There are 9 factors in that group. For happiness and health, good relationships are very important, and bad relationships are a disaster. The 9-second video: good relationships are fundamental for human happiness and health, and poor quality people and incompatible people can't have good relationships. To have good relationships, which is second only in importance to mental health, you have to be a good quality person. Cheats, liars, selfish, unfair, dishonest people don't have good relationships. And good people who are incompatible don't have good relationships. You know that the history of mankind is that for 98% of human life, people lived in small groups in nature, and they lived with the same people for the whole of their life, and they were very close to those people. And why was that? Well, there weren't any farms or factories or gardens. They lived off the fruit and vegetables and so on that grew in nature. The fruit, the nuts, the seeds, the leaves, the trunks, the roots. And so every day, or most days, they'd go out. They were called hunter-gatherers. They'd go out and gather these foods from nature. And if there was more than 150, there wasn't usually enough food within walking distance. So the group couldn't be bigger than 150. But the group couldn't be less than 30, because in those days humans didn't dominate the animal world like they do now, and if a person slept on their own, they were likely to be eaten by a lion or a hyena or something. So people lived in these groups for the whole of their life, and they knew one another very well, and they accommodated, they adapted to one another. They had to do the right thing. When I grew up on a farm in a remote area, and that was true of country people to some extent, more so than it is of city people. That in the country you knew people, or you knew their kids at school, or you knew their uncle or their cousin, and you knew the family had a good reputation or a bad reputation, and that helped you to have to be a good person, to have good relationships, and to relate to the people you're compatible with. But now your next door neighbour could have been born on the other side of the world, where they spoke a different language and had quite different customs and different values, different cultures. And they may be a good person and you may be a good person, but you may not be compatible. So good relationships depend on being a good quality person, being able to recognize good quality people and recognize people that you're compatible with. And of course you can learn from people who are different to you, and it's good to know some people who are different to you, but it's very important to have some friends, some connections where you feel comfortable and you feel relaxed, and you're good for one another. And that particularly has to apply to the person you're married to. The most important thing in getting married, and getting married is probably by far one of the most important things you'll ever do. You need to be a good person, they need to be a good person, and you need to be compatible. And if you married them because they were good looking, or they could run the 4-minute mile, or they were top of the class in algebra or something, but they weren't good people and you weren't compatible, well, you got a problem. A good marriage is one of the best places to be in the world, and a bad marriage is one of the worst. And nearly 50% of marriages end in divorce, and that is just a disaster. And to be healthy, happy, and have good relationships, find and be your true self. Many people are unhappy and have troubles and crashes and difficulties because they're trying to be someone that they're not. Something happened to them in their childhood, or things happened, or they moved, or their mum was like this and their dad was like that, and they took after their mum and they didn't get on very well with their dad, or and they're not being themselves, and that's very uncomfortable, and they make choices and get into situations and get into relationships that are not happy and not good for them. So to be healthy and happy, have good relationships, find and be your true self. The 8-second video, learn to feel what's natural and right for you, and you'll find and build better friendships and relationships. Item 5 in that group is ask yourself, has anything stopped me, or is anything stopping me from being me? And item 6, when you find your true self, find some true friends who are like you. Number 8, a hug a day keeps the doctor away. I am sure the world would be a better place if there was more affection shown, if people were more affectionate with one another. I know there are countries where they're more affectionate than they are in Australia, but life is happier and healthier when you give and get enough closeness, caring, touching and affection. That's the 10-second video. Item 9 is make difficult relationships easier. The 10-second video is, if you don't get on well with someone you can't avoid, it's often easier if you can find 1 or 2 good things about them and smile when you think about those good things. Group 7 of the mental health and addiction problems and solutions is families, and there are 8 factors. A good marriage is one of the greatest places on earth, but bad marriages can ruin your life and health. Item 2, our mum gave us half our genes, and in 9 months inside her she grew us from a tiny egg to a beautiful baby with many wonderful parts. Number 3, after we were born, our mum was still our world day and night. She had to feed us every 3 hours, and that took half an hour, and then she had to burp us and then rock us, and our mum was so important. So item 4 is, there's so much of our mum in us that we may develop problems similar to hers. And the 14-second video for that is our shared genes and her mental health, nature and habits and effects on us make it possible we could have similar problems to hers. Do scroll plus checks and watch videos so her problems don't pass through you to your children, because that's what happens. Problems, it's called transgenerational trauma. Something bad happens in one person's life and it goes to their children's lives, to their grandchildren's lives and so on. You want to check the problems that your mum's got, because you've probably got similar problems, and you want to make sure you solve those problems with scroll plus checks or mental fix-it checks so that you don't pass them on. The 1-minute video for that is, there's nothing in the world more important than mothering a baby and supporting a baby's mum. Yeah, because mums are 8 or 10 times more important than dads in direct contact with the baby, especially in the first year, and of course before the baby's born. But the mums who support the baby need support. It's a heavy job, and they need support. So the dad's job and the mum's job and other family members is to support the mother. Item 5, no one is a separate lone individual. We're all one link in 2 great chains of mums and dads. The 14-second video with that is, we got our genes, and the 2 most important things in our whole life, our emotional habits and our relation habits, developed in the home and family our mum and dad made. Item 7, our genes and chemistry adapted over hundreds of thousands of years in our ancestors to life in small, close groups of people in nature, as we discuss, in the groups of 30 to 150 in nature. And that went on for hundreds of thousands of years with very few changes, and that's what our chemistry and our genes are adapted to. So the 14-second video is, so our chemistry works best and we're happiest and healthiest when we eat fresh, natural foods, drink water, are physically active, get sunlight and fresh air, are close to other people and have some contact with nature. Item 8 is getting a good home is a top priority. Sometimes when we're young we don't think enough about how important having a good home is, but having a good home is so important. Group 8 is habits. Our very busy brain can't cope with everything consciously, so it makes many things we do often into automatic unconscious habits.